Hello and welcome to the Eurogamer podcast. I'm Chris Bratt, joined today by Bertie Purchese.
Hello!
And all the way from somewhere near Birmingham, it's Ian Higton.
Hello!
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. This is the problem with being based in Brighton.
Yeah.
We have to drag you down here.
They don't let me out much, so,
But you're here now and we're going to talk about some video games.
Use me while you got me.
Where shall we start? Who wants to kick off? I know Bertie and I both played something that's the same, so maybe we could go there.
Let's do that.
That is Overwatch, which is back
Way!
for its second beta. Yeah, it's still closed, unfortunately, and I think they're pretty much done with invitations, which is really annoying because we're now going to talk about probably how much we like it, and you can't play it until probably like June. Sorry, but I do really like it. It's an awful lot of fun.
I love the loot box opening. It's just like Hearthstone.
Honestly, Blizzard are amazing at that, aren't they?
It's very like, it pops open, then you see the sort of colours of the things you've got. So if you've got Blizzard fashion, if you've got a rare or epic thing, you've got purple, and then
Legendary's
orange. It's like orange is when you really go bananas and poo yourself, and that's like
You can tell that Bertie and I both have a history with a certain World of Warcraft because that is exactly the same.
And the noise it makes as well,
process.
like you get a different noise if you get like something really. I think you get a different noise if you get something really good.
Possibly, yeah. It definitely makes it more dramatic.
And it's like and then you see it land, and you're like, what is it? What is it?
Well, I'm kind of surprised that you both like it because, you're the strategy king, and this is like a first-person shooter almost.
Well, you see,
you like dragons.
I kind of grew up on Quake 2. So I've always liked
like an arena shooter, I guess. Is that what you call it?
I've always liked that sort of deathmatchy first-person shoot, but only on PC with mouse and keyboard. I can't. I struggle with the console FPS, although I do play Battlefront.
For me, with Overwatch, basically, I've always wanted to get into Team Fortress 2. I've always loved the look of that game, and it's got this incredible community around it. But every time I go to play it, I always feel like I'm just too late, and I'm shy compared to everyone else. Yeah, and then you're like, so what do these buttons do? And
is that okay? Can I?
It's always scared me a little bit. And then occasionally they do these holiday events with Team Fortress 2, like around Halloween. They'll have something special going on, and that game has gone on for so long now that there's so much on top of just the base thing. Like they've got a whole loot system that I just don't understand, and it's always been a bit intimidating. So with Overwatch, I really like that I'm in on sort of the ground floor.
Right.
The great thing about the beta is, as well, because real people aren't playing it, there's a lot of people that aren't very good. There are game journalists on there, and
they're
game
rubbish at games.
Genuinely are rubbish at games.
The first game that I played, I'd watched Chris play it when it was the first beta, and I really liked it. So I had a bit of working knowledge of what some of the characters did, and I played as I've forgotten his name now, the Reaper guy with 2 shotguns.
Yeah, he's just called Reaper.
It's called Reaper, that's his name. And I got like a few kills, like, oh my god, I'm doing it! And then I got absolutely owned in the next game. But it's great, and it is overwhelming when there's a whole roster of characters like put before you straight away, and it's like, play as any of them, and it's like,
for launch there's going to be 21 characters, and they're going to do more than that. And you're absolutely right. That reminds me, and actually maybe one of the other reasons I've kind of been attracted to it is because the character design and the way those characters work with like the set number of abilities and ultimate reminds me a lot of playing a MOBA. And I played a lot of Dota 2, and so kind of seeing the link there, at least with the characters themselves. And 21 characters is incredibly overwhelming, but once you get a feel for them, once you've played each of them once, it's lovely because you can, unlike a MOBA, you can actually switch heroes during the match. Yeah. So if you come up against something that you can't beat, like there's someone who's playing Reaper and you don't know how to deal with it, you can switch characters and try something else.
Or they've got this great like tank healer combo, and you're like and like Reinhardt, this guy with a massive shield, and they're just blocking the way, and you're like, we can't get through. You're like, right, well, I'll go above, or I'll go around the back.
Yeah, and there are characters specifically designed to counter those kind of situations. So it means even if you're losing, you constantly have in the back of your mind, well, I can try something else. Like I'm not even better than playing some MOBA sometimes. Sometimes when you've got a certain setup, you feel like you've lost almost immediately because the other team has a setup that just seems to work better. In Overwatch, you always feel like you can switch out to something else and just try a different tactic.
And that's almost better. And you can envisage when you get the good teams playing this that they'll almost use a certain tactic for one point, and then they'll swap to a different play because you'll be flummoxed. The other team will be set up and they'll think, oh, we've got an idea of how they're going to play, and then they come at you with something completely different, and you're just like, what are they doing? And then you're dead. Yeah. And if your whole team dies and you go right back to your spawn point, which is like the beginning part of the map, usually, then you have to run all the way back, and some of the characters are agonisingly slow. It's like, oh, come on!
So do you guys think you like it because it's very much MOBA flavoured? Because I think you don't play too many first-person shooters, really, do you?
Not as many more recently, although I did used to be really into Halo 3. Like I've dabbled.
You've dabbled.
Yeah, I just
it has that gorgeous Blizzard thing.
Yeah.
Have they done many first-person shooters, Blizzard?
No.
This is like
they were going to do Titan, and Overwatch is
bits of it. We don't know exactly how much.
They've never really said what, but it's some of Titan. So Jeff Kaplan, the guy who's like the boss of Overwatch, was also the boss of Titan.
Right.
And he's said, we came into this, but never really said like exactly what it is they took from Titan to put into this. But
I'm speaking to him tomorrow, actually. Maybe I should try and ask, and he'll then find a way to avoid answering.
Yeah,
which will be fun for both of us.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool.
So the shooting feels good, I guess.
All of the game feels good. Like it feels really. That's a good way to describe like a Blizzard game. It feels really nice. Like I was playing this kind of. So you have different roles of character. So you have broadly. You have support, so like healery types. You have tanks, who are like, I suppose, are they the defense types?
The defense is a different thing. Tanks are like the guys with loads of health and often. And
then you have
through a distraction.
Some builder type characters who build turrets or can be turrets.
Yeah.
And then you have a very offensive who are like squidgy, but powerful, but nimble often. So then you play, and when you line up your team, you'll be matched with people on both teams, and when you play, it will say you've got too few of these characters. Someone like some muggins like me is going to have to play support. Because but that's another thing. I feel like I'm not quite into the game enough yet, where I can boss like just being like an offensive character. I can go, you support me. I've played enough.
So that totally happens in MOBAs as well. When you first start playing, well, at least I found that I never dared pick the carry. Like the carry in a MOBA is the character that will basically. The idea is that you're going to out-level everyone else and you'll become the most powerful person on your team. It is a very fun role to play. But when you first start out, you feel like, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that.
Anyone, I can't be that. They'll throw me out. They'll see right through me.
Yeah, and a similar thing kind of happens here. Yeah, but I think
I was doing some good support, and I have played healers in MMOs previously, so I like to think I know a bit about healers.
Yeah, it's a hell of a game. I continue to be very excited about it. I still have absolutely no idea if it will be this game that Blizzard want it to be, which is like the next esport, possibly something to go up against Counter-Strike Go. I have no idea if that will work.
It's really nice actually that we're talking about like there's lots of heroes. That's really nice, and they're all designed really nicely. They don't have that many abilities. Like it's not that overwhelming when you look at it. You go, all right, actually within about 30 seconds you know what they can do. Whether you can use it at the right time is that's a different thing. But what's nice is that because this is like a full price game, you're not like try these characters then buy these characters if you want them. It's quite nice that they kind of give you a full lump and then go right now. But it is overwhelming because of that. But it's nice at the same time. It's like.
And just to wrap up the Overwatch chat, like we talked about this in a video as the beta came back. But basically, something they are doing, it is a full price game, but they have a progression system in it, which is this loot that we're talking about with these lovely Blizzard, pack openings, and of course it's great. It does very much sound like they are going to be selling those post-launch, so you unlock them every time you level up.
Man,
if you want more of them.
Now. Yeah, I would buy it, and I know. I sort of look at cosmetic items in games and think, like lol, like who would buy that? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I would buy a jazzy costume.
Yeah, and it's funded like all the successful MOBAs exist because they sell cosmetic stuff, and so yes. It does look a bit shitty that they're selling a full price game and then selling extra stuff after that. But hopefully, what it means is that they can then fund a game that's going to last for years, and maybe be this esport they want it to be. Who knows if it will be? No one knows. And they're going to fund that off cosmetic items. They're never going to sell heroes and maps. That's what they've said. Like, and that means competitively, the game should remain completely fair. Literally, if you pay more money, you can look a bit shiny, and that's it. And that's exactly what I want to hear from them. Hopefully that remains true for years to come, and we'll see. But yeah, that's a lot of Overwatch talk. It's a good game. I like it.
It is good. It is fun.
Ian Higton,
Hello.
what have you been playing, my friend?
I've been playing a couple of things. The most noteworthy, I guess, would probably be Firewatch.
Oh, right, okay.
About recently.
Yeah, that's great.
So I want to know about Firewatch because not that of course I've read our reviews, but let's pretend that I haven't read our reviews.
It's recommended from Christian Dunlan.
Yeah, in fact. To me, it looks like Lost the video. If I say it's like Lost the video, how close? Is it?
I think The Witness is closer to Lost the video.
Let's say I haven't played The Witness. Let's chuck that out there.
Right, it's not close to Lost. Firewatch isn't.
What is it? What, like, to break it down? What do you do in Firewatch?
You just rock up on an island,
yeah,
and then you're like, this is a weird island.
That's The Witness.
Yeah, that's
Firewatch. You're in a forest.
Yeah, you're
watching
in a national
for fire.
park.
Oh right.
Yeah.
See,
so,
where's it set?
It's set in the 1980s near the Yellowstone Park.
I've heard of that one.
Is that where Yogi Bear lives?
It is.
Okay. Is that actually?
Yeah. Hey, boo boo. No, wouldn't it? Well, he's Jellystone.
Jellystone.
Right, okay, yes,
Jellystone,
okay.
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
See what they did there. Yeah. I haven't spotted any Yogi Bear Easter eggs, but you never know.
So what do you do whilst you're wandering around watching for fire?
So it's
without venturing into any spoilers.
I've got to be very careful about spoilers here. It opens up really interestingly as a kind of like a cross between a Twine game and Up.
Right, a Twine game. I'm not quite sure.
So Twine games are text-based games almost. It's almost like a
sort
choose your own
like
adventure.
interactive fiction.
Okay.
So you get, instead of having an opening cutscene, occasionally you get this footage of your guy missioning through the woods, and then some text comes up and you have to choose some stuff, like give a dog a name and stuff. And it gives you a big backstory about your motivations, about why you're in the forest.
Right.
Because it's a very lonely job. These forest fire watcher guys, they just sit.
Yeah, you're in like
towers.
your individual tower, and your only contact with someone else is through a radio. Right?
Yeah, and so you go there. You know why you're there, but you don't really know a great detail. And the whole game really is about the guy you play, Henry, and his relationship with Delilah, and a fellow fire watcher who's on another side of the park.
Wow. Okay.
And your conversations are all through walkie-talkie, and it's a bit like BioShock in the way that all your conversations with Andrew Ryan via walkie-talkie. And so you explore these forests and have to, like, basically one day you see some fireworks going off and you have to go and see what's going on with the fireworks. Yeah. That opens up a big mystery that keeps having twists and twists.
Okay.
And it feels a bit like, have you played Gone Home?
Yeah.
So you play Gone Home. You know, Gone Home makes you think things are happening. You're like, this is spooky ghost, alien. And then it turns out that it's like something completely different, but it's a really engaging story.
Sure.
It's like that, but in the wilderness, with a few more things to do, including taking photos, which is awesome.
I've seen some lovely photographs.
If you play on the PC version, you can order them.
Yeah, you can get them sent to like a site and then actually order prints.
Yeah, which I did. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I got them through the post the other day, and they're really cool. You get this little disposable camera with 19 photos in, and you take photos.
You're limited to 19 photos in the game.
Yeah, I think the camera starts with 24 photos, but when you find it, there's 4 have been taken, and you find out what those photos are at the very end.
I love that, by the way. That is such a cool idea. I mean, to be fair, if you're playing on the PC, you've got a button called F12, which will like take screenshots of something. But I do love the idea of a disposable camera with a limited number of photographs, so they have some meaning to you because you can't take them forever.
And
so the gameplay is what you're moving around in the world, and then you're taking pictures, and then the
gameplay and the twists kind of play second fiddle to the relationship between Henry and Delilah. Okay. It's a game.
But then the relationship plays out like you say on the walkie-talkie. But how does that happen in gameplay? Are you like press R1 to activate walkie-talkie?
No. You'll be wandering around and Delilah will radio you, and she'll be like, "So why are you here?" And you have a choice to like let her know why you're there. Or string her along.
So like dialogue choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a game like that is. It's a game about guilt and fear and running away from your problems. And
whoa!
It gets
I don't know if that's entertainment.
Well, entertainment doesn't have to be fun. You know?
Not all films are happy films. Some of them are depressing as well.
Hey, we don't need to compare ourselves to films here. Games have proven themselves.
Just want to watch an Adam Sandler movie.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
It sounds great. Full disclosure, I did play a game of Subterfuge with a designer from Campo Santo. Right. However, he won the game, and I sort of don't like him because of that. So hopefully that hasn't influenced me either way. But it sounds like a game that I would like to play. It does sound interesting. I thought it was. Do you like
different. I really liked it. I know that Martin Robinson doesn't like it too much. Christian Donlan gave it recommended. It's one of those vanilla Marmite games.
Yeah, I think Gone Home, like the comparison you made before, Gone Home was a similar sort of thing. Some people, that's one of their favourite games and really spoke to them. And some people just see it as a game where you walk around the house and don't really do a lot. And it depends on what you're into,
It's the atmosphere. Right? Like, Gone Home, you wander around a house. And if you see it as you're wandering around a house, then, you're not going to enjoy it. But if you're wandering around the bedroom and you're looking at X-Files tapes on VHS, or you need to get absorbed in the world, and Firewatch does that quite well with its beautiful graphics and everything.
I played Gone Home at a similar time in which I'd just gone to university, and my parents had moved to a new house whilst I was at uni, and when I went back to visit them, my family were there, but the house was completely alien to me. Yeah. And so Gone Home was like just tapped into that feeling that I'd been experiencing, and that's the difference between it. You need to form some kind of connection with that. So you mentioned with Firewatch that there's this kind of story of running away from your guilt or your problems, and some people are going to be able to tap into that and get something out of it. I guess. Yeah,
it's just if you.
It sounds brilliant.
If you like character, if you like things with good character, where you have time to pause and take in the beautiful scenery, which is a good one of the.
Are there any jump scares?
No, I don't think so. It's not a scary game. No.
I got another question. Why does Henry have big ham hands? His hands are massive. He's like Wreck-It Ralph.
He's from Street Fighter.
He's a stocky middle-aged guy.
But his hands are like. His hands and like lower arms are just crazy.
He works in the forest.
Yeah. He's just lifting up all those trees. And,
he's a 40-year-old guy. He's probably.
That is not what happens to 40-year-old guys.
It is.
Have you seen?
Just sort of start expanding.
Have you seen labourers and like manual people like bricklayers and stuff? They have. Like their hands, effectively, they become these gloves. This is like fleshy gloves.
New media games journalists talking about manual labour.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it with that.
I was a manual labourer before I did this job.
Oh really?
So I know. Yeah.
What did you do?
Manual labour. I worked for a carpenter.
Man.
Yeah.
That's
I was his unskilled grunt.
Nice.
Basically.
I was a cleaner.
I did some pot washing at one point.
Pot washing?
Yeah. It's a nice little weekend job. It wasn't nice at all.
I did a bit of pot washing. I was rubbish at it. And I hated it.
Yeah, me too. The chef was really mean.
They tend to be. It's like, we might be such an arsehole.
But we very briefly played a game called Overcooked in the office. It was me, Christian Donlan, and Aoife Wilson. Did you guys see this video that we put up?
I did, yes.
And it's a local co-op game.
Kitchen.
And you have to work together to like work a kitchen. Like you'll be given orders, you've got to complete them, but the orders and the time limit that you have mean that everyone needs to do part of that. So if you're like making a burger, like someone's got to go and make sure the dishes are washed.
Right.
That was Donlan. He was fucking rubbish at it.
Wasn't very good.
Awful. And then like someone's got to make
sure
he
was probably thinking about the meaning of it while he was doing it.
No, he was just useless. Honestly, I didn't want him in the kitchen. And then some people like chopping the lettuce and tomatoes. Some people. One person. I'd argue.
Chris, for the record, Chris is pointing at.
I'd argue the head chef was, like frying the burgers. That was the most important job because, as Ian just pointed out, you get that wrong, things are going to set on fire. And it's not out yet. It's just been hit Steam green light, but it's wonderul. It's like Gang Beasts meets Cooking Mama, and it's as good as that sounds.
You've sold it to me already.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like we were shouting at each other. It was largely me and Donlan falling out, and Ethan just finding it all quite funny. A fantastic game to keep an eye on. I just thought I'd mention that as we said pot washing. Sorry.
Oh.
That sounds cool. I had no idea that game existed.
Yeah.
I've played Cook Serve Delicious, which
What the hell is Cook Serve Delicious?
You run a restaurant of some kind. It's a small restaurant at first. You gradually add stuff to your menu, and then it takes. There are kind of sliders to how long stuff takes, and then how long people are getting served. And there's a sweet point to serving people and getting everything done, and it just becomes a game of balancing all that stuff.
That is a single player version of what Overcooked is trying to do.
Yeah, and it gets frantic, and when you get really good at it, you can look like one of those prodigies. And you're like, what are they even doing?
The great thing about Overcooked is that you're doing exactly that. Like sometimes you just get into the flow. Like you understand exactly what you're doing. You're frying maybe 3 burgers at once.
You can't do that. No one can do that.
And then you're like, oh man, this is all perfectly timed. I've got this all great. I just need like all the other ingredients that everyone else is looking after, and they're not there.
Man, I can imagine you getting so frustrated.
And that's when you get to get
your
Gordon
corner of the
Ramsay.
kitchen is nice, and then everyone else is.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Where's my freaking tomatoes?
Yeah.
Come on.
Where's my burger bun?
And Dolman just walks past with a clean dish. He's like, yeah, I've done it. It's not. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway,
brutal.
what else have people been playing? Any? You said you played a couple of things actually.
I've been playing a couple of betas, one
Oh, yeah?
which is good and one which was really bad.
Start with the bad one.
Start with the bad one. The bad one, Homefront the Revolution.
Yeah, I've heard a few people.
Because I thought that looked quite promising.
So I played the single player a while back and I was quite excited by it. It feels like Far Cry, heavily inspired by Far Cry, but like Far Cry in an industrial
But it's
setting.
a far cry from Far Cry.
Well, the beta was a Far Cry from Far Cry because the beta wasn't the single player. The beta was this co-op multiplayer. Instead of doing normal Call of Duty kind of multiplayer that you'd expect for a shooter, they've decided to go for these co-op mini missions. So they released this beta with a couple of missions on, and it's just horrible. The graphics are just
How is it so
disgusting.
different from...
So yeah, I've been playing the Xbox One beta, and you got horrible graphics, textures that don't load, AI glitches, guys popping in and out of everywhere,
Body popping,
yeah, doing the robot. You got enemies that just stand around staring at the sky and stuff. You guys were saying that Overwatch controlled brilliantly, and it's like the first person shooter that Blizzard have done. This is like Crytek and who are they called?
They used to be Free Radical.
They did time splits, which was amazing. But the controls in this co-op build were just awful, sluggish, laggy. I don't know whether it's their netcode was dodgy.
For me, that's the worst thing a shooter particularly can be guilty of is having sluggish controls, because it's like that's what I'm doing in your game all the time. It's like if that's not right, it's no fun playing your game.
No. I played for 90 minutes on a stream and it felt like I was running through soup. It felt like I was wrestling with the controls. It was hard to see the enemies because they just blurred into this horrible brown background. And my anticipation from the game went it was really high, and now it's.
I must admit,
it's coming out soon. I don't know how they can fix it.
I was quite positive about that, but that
single player might still be okay,
it has to
but
feel right, and it irks me when there are lots of companies who are gunning towards this. The game has to look impressive and cinematic, and I'm like, just take some of that out.
Yeah.
But make it feel nice. If that's what the problem is, if that's why it's loading slowly or whatever, take some of that out. But make it smooth and crisp to play, because otherwise it's like I'm not going to have fun shooting stuff.
There is one thing that can save Homefront the Revolution, though.
The Revolution?
And I mean, it's something that Ian hasn't mentioned yet, which to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised by. So obviously in Homefront you're fighting back against an invasion. You're in America, you're fighting back against the North Koreans that have taken control of the state. And in Homefront the Revolution, the North Koreans, they've become this presence. Everyone has kind of had to adapt to them being there, and they've done that by giving them a slight abbreviation, which instead of saying, the North Koreans, they say the Norks.
Oh,
which if you're British is brilliant, because people keep talking about boobs.
Bunch of boobs.
Yeah. And it's great, and no one outside of Britain, as far as I can tell, really uses that word.
And considering
like that, right?
it was developed in England.
Oh come on, Norks is hilarious.
I know of it, but I know of it from the forums and stuff. But I don't.
Oh yeah, you'd use it in like a.
I've never really used.
But if you were trying to like put on a character and say a funny word for breasts, Norks might be an option.
Yeah,
and
true.
so I don't know. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I mean,
help
it
that we're all
sounds
very
it
mature.
sounds slightly. I'm not sure it's a great term. It sounds like a little bit like a racial slur. But aside from that, I mean, it's hilarious because it's also the word for breasts in some places.
So yeah, basically it's out very soon. I don't think they're going to be able to save co-op. I had heard that what they've put out as the beta is an old build, which still is like, why would you do that? Why don't release something so broken into the wild? Because it's not going to look good for you, and it doesn't.
That sounds like
the comments on the video that
I'm not sure that I buy that. Oh yeah, sorry, this was just an old build. Well, of course it's an old build. It's a beta. You're always going to have a newer build. But if it's broken fundamentally, and you've said yes, this is okay to release to the public, that doesn't bode well.
Yeah. You put this build out to the public.
Also, you needed to do something really, really cool to make Homefront a series worth caring about again, and it doesn't sound like that's that.
No, I'm still got hopes for the single player, but the co-op will be dead on arrival. I think.
For me, it's like, well, why not just stick to the single player then? Because they will know, they're not fools. Then they will know that that's not the strongest stuff that people are playing, and it's like they think, all right, the single player is stronger, so why not just stick to that? Because we have to tick all these boxes.
Tick the production boxes.
Just do something strong.
It's true.
It'll be remembered better.
So that made me sad.
Okay.
But the beta that made me happy was Hitman.
Oh yes, I played a bit of Hitman as well.
It's very good.
Great.
I haven't played it, but I've been looking at it promisingly because it's a bit different. And well, you guys can say, but to me it seems like a bit different, but it looks like Hitman at its roots. That's what it does best.
Yeah. So there was a couple of Hitmans before Hitmansies. There's a couple
Don't
of
say
them.
Hitmansies, I love you.
All right, then I won't. So there was a couple, Hitman 1, Hitman 2. Then there was Hitman Blood Money, which is like the one that everyone's like, this is amazing.
And I've seen, including in our
Money.
preview, people are referring to this as the return to that kind of quality. Like this is
Hitman Absolution was more like almost like a corridor.
Yeah, it got a bit
FPS-y. But Blood Money was like a little. Every level was a little sandbox with loads of different people you could kill, different costumes. You could mix up. Yeah. And what they're doing with Hitman, and it's just called Hitman. There's no.
Yeah, it's like considered a reboot.
Yeah, they're releasing episodically, which is kind of controversial, but they're releasing episodically, and each episode is a different location, different sandbox, different playground. So in the beta, we just got the training missions, but I think the first episode will have training and Paris, a mad fashion show that you can go in and kill like a model and put his makeup on and stuff.
I sort of, having played the beta now, I don't mind this episodic approach because even these training missions feel like such. It feels like there's so much to them, particularly when you think about like how people, players can set contracts within them and create their own missions. Like just playing that, we played for a video that I think maybe going up today or tomorrow. We basically all played the training mission set on the yacht, and even within that, which is it's even smaller than the second training mission. There's so many possibilities for extra stuff to do. We all played it in different ways, very different ways. I've been editing the video.
Oh, sweet.
And I like it. They're these little sandboxes, like self-contained things that you can just. There's so much freedom within them. I've been extremely impressed by it. I don't know if I wasn't hopeful about it, but I hadn't been paying a lot of attention to the reboot. The betas won me round.
Cool. Well, it's full of that dark Hitman humour. Like there's lots of funny bits in it.
It was always the dressing up was always great. Yeah. Koshing someone, then dragging them, and then like nicking their costume,
dumping their body in the fridge,
and then walking around going like.
As a slight spoiler for the video that's going up, should we talk through how we both approached that mission on the yacht? So there's you've got your target is on like the top floor of the yacht. He's like a hacker or something. I don't know. This is not that important. And basically, he has a meeting with someone and then walks into like an office. And at some point during that, you want to take him out. And I basically, after the first time you do it, it's actually the tutorial for the game, and you put on you like knock out a mechanic. You put on his uniform. You use that to walk through the cargo bay of the yacht, and like sneak past like a guardsman that could recognize you. You get upstairs, you knock out a waiter, and use that uniform to get to the top floor of the yacht, and then you can take him out using a pistol. When I played it myself with Freedom, I ignored all of that, went immediately to a security booth like on the right hand side of the mission, shot all 3 security guards, put them on their uniforms, and the great thing about being a security guard in that mission is that for some reason you're allowed to carry some pretty heavy weaponry. So I walked onto the yacht with a shotgun, walked straight up to the guy, shot him in the chest, shot all the other guards, and then walked out cool as you like.
Wow.
And it was so much fun, because
I
felt
that game's about stealth, right?
I know, but I wanted to see,
test it.
Can you go in loud and also feel like an assassin? And I did. I didn't feel like I was just like, cheesing it and just like shooting my way to victory. Like I put some plans into it, but I wanted this dramatic kill where I just walk up to the guy and poof, and it delivered that. I managed to do something that wasn't that stealthy and still feel like I was Agent 47, which is cool.
You didn't get killed at all? Because they get quite brutal when you...
yeah, but a shotgun. I had a shotgun, which was great. And then you're out. It was cool, and I walked away from that feeling pretty hopeful about where that game's going. What did you do?
So I had a brilliant plan, which was to get a remote-controlled mine, go up there, leg it up to his office, stick the mine under his table. Oh, because
you played the tutorial, so you knew he was going to be there, right?
So I knew he was going to be there, so I planted a mine in his office, and then I ran off, and I was waiting for him to go to his office, and for some reason he didn't. Oh. And then, I was just waiting around, and then I noticed that, I was stood next to this life raft that you could dislodge from the wall if you had a crowbar, and he kept walking back and forth underneath. So I ran to get this crowbar, came back and just waited for him to get underneath, and then was just properly smushed him on the deck. It was amazing.
Did any brains pop out? Or
I didn't see, because then I just hitmaned myself off to the helicopter. Yeah. Gone, done.
I also like
that. That's great. I think that's more gruesome.
You had a good plan. It didn't work, and you reacted to something else that you found, and it still felt cool, right?
It's emergent gameplay, I think they call it.
If that game needs to make you feel like a cool assassin man, and that sounds it.
Yeah, you don't want to accidentally bump into him and knock him over the side.
Or you don't want to be told that you can't do that. Whenever that game. And it happens still, because there are limitations, but I was impressed by how many options there were. I remember in the beta, actually, you can look at the list of challenges, which are special achievements you can go for, and just looking at that gives you an idea of how many different ways you can take out this target. You can poison him.
Yeah, I did that on the Eurogamer stream. That's exactly what I did on the Eurogamer stream. Yeah, I poisoned him, and I thought it would kill him outright, but he vomits and walks to the toilet.
Right.
So then I followed him and drowned him in the toilet. Drowned him in his own sick. What a way to go!
He deserves
brutal.
it.
Yeah.
Hackers.
But it's full of that and feels that's exactly what Blood Money is. The reason people adore Blood Money is because
and it's one of those games where you will have a plan, a dead set plan in your mind, and then something will happen that will make it go to shit, and then you'll be like, oh. And if you can pull it off, still you feel like a hero.
When's it out?
First episode is out March, and is it March? I think it's March, and then monthly for 3 or 4 episodes. Starting to get into guessing territory.
I think I remember writing something about this, and I know it sounds like episodes aren't very big, but I think what you get in each, the sandbox are quite big. And there's multiple levels within sandboxes, so you can play.
It'll be interesting to see how people react to that and how well it does, because they definitely screwed up the messaging. And I think they know that. The reaction to episodic wasn't great. They've pulled it back, I think, with a successful beta.
Definitely have. Even then, though, comments were I've seen overwhelmingly negative comments about it being episodic.
It's quite nice to see people do something new, different and new, and try something, because
games are about experimentation.
Yeah,
and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, then we've got a cool Hitman game that you get excited for every month. And they can keep
serving you good. If the game is good, then they can keep serving you good content that you want in a good game, and it's and then it.
Which is the ideal result, really. If a Hitman game that keeps on going could be great. And if it doesn't work, if
it doesn't work.
If you don't want to get in on that, then maybe you wait until everything's out come back to it at a later date and buy
that's
it
right,
like
because
a full game.
you can. There is an option, isn't to buy.
If it came out like full game came out in March, I'd play through it 12, 15 hours, whatever, be done on the shelf. But this way, I get to play a bit, then get excited for a bit, and then play another
There's
bit.
something
And
really
keep
cool
it fresh
about
for a bit longer, I guess.
Episodic games, when done right, do create a community around them and a sense of anticipation for what's coming next. In the same way that, like, the reason we like watching, TV shows in kind of a serious format is because it's actually quite fun to be in that conversation around it, like whilst it's going on.
Yeah, and if you don't want to do it episodic, wait until it's all out and then do the Netflix kind of cram it all in.
It'll be like a tenner on Steam before you know it. Yeah. All right, cool. Should we wrap up the game chat with you, Bertie? You've got another one, right?
So I played a game last week that I personally have been waiting for a long time. It's Torment: Tides of Numenera, which I can't even say.
I keep forgetting the subtitle to that game.
So it's a thematic successor to Planescape Torment, which is a revered role-playing game from a long time ago. Not revered because it plays particularly well, but revered because it has this deep philosophical kind of what is the nature of man. You play an amnesiac's immortal hero, and it turns out you've been a bit of a bad word in a previous life actually at the end, and you're sort of discovering this, working it out along the way, and you meet, and it's weird. You do weird things in it, like you'll have characters that you don't really expect, and you'll improve your, even little things like you'll improve your statistics just through dialogue choices with them. Like it's not like through combat or something, you'll just delve into a memory of theirs bizarrely, and through like an interaction in their memory you'll end up boosting your stat pool or learning a new skill or so. It's kind of bizarre like that, and then you go to different planes and things like that, which are different sort of realms of being, and it's like, ooh, this is weird. So it's weird, and I think it sticks in people's memories because of that. Planescape is a Dungeons and Dragons setting,
right?
But Torment is just a word, obviously. And many years later, the original came out in 1999. So many years later, it was kickstarted like a thematic successor because In Exile, the people who made Wasteland 2, had the trademark to Torment, so they couldn't use Planescape because that's Dungeons and Dragons. So they had to use something different. So they used a new rule set called Numenera, hence Torment: Tides of Numenera.
It doesn't.
Well done.
Maybe it will eventually, but it doesn't roll off the tongue for me yet. I always stumble after the word torment.
Yeah, well, just call it Torment. I mean, like honestly, that. And what was really nice to me is that it felt like Torment. It's not glitzy to look at. I thought it looked clear and simple enough, especially in combat and things. It was clear. It doesn't have the zip and zest of something like XCOM because it is turn-based.
Yeah.
But this is a game that's made on like $5 million roughly.
Is this the game that you died in the first 2 minutes of?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what I liked. So it felt just like playing a tabletop. I should backtrack a tiny bit. I think this game is special. But I think it's special when you give it your imagination and your attention.
Right.
If you look at it and you just, as a game or a tabletop role-playing game can be special if you give it your attention and your imagination, as a book can be special. But if you just look at it like you've been served all these games that we get these days that are great, like some of them look just incredible and they give you so much. If you approach it like that, you'll be like, oh, it was a slightly old-looking.
Yeah, I from what I've seen of you playing it, the text itself is infinitely more important than the visuals. Like the in many ways, the visuals are almost a kind of an aid to what you're reading.
Yeah,
they just give you a hint of what
half
to
of your
think
screen.
about.
The text box can come up, and it's like half your screen is just this text box, and actually your eyes are there anyway. So it's like, well, why not? And actually, the thing that's happening on the screen could be like a visual cue, which is like a whiteout or something, or a blackout. And the sound cue could be like at the very beginning is like a drop of water because you're doing this water puzzle kind of thing, or something else, and it's just enough to lift the text from being like dumb text. So it lifts it up to make it, it kind of annotates it, and it makes it something else. And it is in many ways it's like a kind of choose your own adventure. In a lot of ways it's like a tabletop adventure where, you know, we would be sitting here at a table, but you're imagining something different at the same time. Like when the dungeon master or game master is describing a situation, you're imagining, you know, crazy stuff. And in many ways, I know what you see on the screen is limited, just like when what we'd see on the table would be limited.
Sure.
But in your head, there's no limits. And in fact, the closer we get to being able to replicate what people see in their heads, the more limited it seems sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And the more effort people have to put into recreating that. Hence, you have to see the important cinematics of BioWare because they've put so much bloody effort into them. It would be a waste not to see them. So in this, as a result, all the many corners of the world are liberally, all this creativity and imagination is the word, is liberally used. It's weird. You talk to people and, for instance, I came across someone and we're just having this fight in the street, like a text-based fight, basically, where he's going, I'm the fastest person in the world, and I'm going, no, you're not. And there are dice rolls and things that underpin it. It's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's a bit more story-based, but it's not a million miles away from it. And then at the end of this dialogue, I end up gaining permanently some speed points. There are other weird things, like there's this lady who trades secrets, like she's a merchant, but you have to go to her with secrets, you can't trade anything else. Weird things like to become a citizen in this place, you have to give a year of your life. So if you gave a year of your 18-year-old life, you don't want to give that because you haven't lived it yet. But you have to give a year of your life. So they create what's called a levy, which is like this guard which personally watches you so you can become a citizen and take responsibility. It's just weird stuff like that. And all around you is this world where civilizations have risen and fallen. And it's littered with this odd stuff, which even like travels time and things. The concept of time is a bit loose in general, and you can interact with it because you're a cast-off body of what's called the changing god, who like leaps from body to body, trying to outrun this thing called the sorrow, which is like this immeasurable menace that's pursuing him. And you wake up and a bit like Planescape Torment, you're a bit of an amnesiac. Like, well, no, you didn't really have a life before, but you're trying to put together.
You don't know the world yet.
Yeah, but yet you can interact with some of these things because you were the changing god at some point.
I think in some ways, although you know, like you mentioned BioWare, like BioWare RPGs nowadays look absolutely incredible. Like the Mass Effect has like. We really have gained something incredible from the huge budgets that these games can command. But I'd argue we've also lost something because games are a little bit worried about players relying on their imagination. They feel like they have to represent everything visually and with audio. Games become very, very expensive to really make stories that can branch out. Like one of the great examples I think that demonstrates this is the difference between Dragon Age Origins, the first Dragon Age game, and the most recent one, Dragon Age Inquisition. Inquisition, you know, at times feels a little bit too limited in your choices. Sometimes I think you can make a decision in that game and it doesn't always feel like, you know, you really had that much of a choice or what you've decided really impacts the game. Whereas in Origins, because I think this is genuinely the reason for it, because it didn't have... when you're having a conversation with someone, the characters aren't voiced. It means that the choices that you have are, you know, there's just so much more of them because it's less expensive to like make a text window with a bunch of choices than, you know, the Inquisition alternative, which would be to have every single line of that voiced by a good actor. Like
I think when you walk that cinematic route, you set an expectation and then you're beholden to it. And it's tricky to get away from.
And it's great and not great at the same time. Like there are some obvious pros and cons there. But yeah, I kind of like that Torment has just embraced the fact that. And
I thought playing it, I was like, well, I've played a bunch of role playing games, and I was like, I'm not gonna. You know, how different's this gonna feel? You know, I thought Planescape Torment was a singular game. I was like, I'm not sure how anything's gonna make me feel the same, but this really did. And I thought, having played it, I was like, this is unusual and imaginative. And what was really refreshing was like, I am exploring this city hub like you do in so many other games with a genuine desire to talk you don't talk to everyone, but with a genuine desire to talk to the named people that I come across because they're weird and different.
Yeah.
Not because I'm trying to hoover or collect as many quests as I can.
Which you just right there described the difference between Origins and Inquisition. Again,
Yeah.
Origins, the side quests are full of these interesting, weird stories. Inquisition, you're picking up quest goals and rewards.
Yeah, and I was really pleased. And again, it's difficult because I don't think people really care about Kickstarter games in the way they did when they backed this game, for instance. I think the Kickstarter, when the real boom happened, there were games in general were quite stagnant, and there was a load of possibility around Kickstarter. Now the game's here, and you look at it, it's not the second coming of Christ or whatever people thought it would be, but actually give it a chance, give it your imagination, and get in there. And there's something that will take your mind, at least, I think, to places that a lot of the bigger games out there won't take you.
Or can't.
Yeah, or can't.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm positive. I mean, there's the beta. It's an early access release on Steam, and I think unless you're really invested in helping the developer, iron out some kinks in their game, I would suggest waiting the few months until it's out, because I had a few crashes and incompatible saves and things like that.
How many hours have you put into it?
Oh, like nearly 20, I think.
Really?
But and that was frustrating, and it did become a bit of a traipse going across game screens, and I didn't find the combat particularly exciting. It was passable. I've only got to character level 2 effectively, so admittedly I don't have that many options and things that I can do, and it's passable. But yeah, I do think that's a kind of footnote to me. I think I do think it's a lot of promise, and we'll see.
Torment, Tides of Numenera.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
Well, see, it's quite a functional because Torment is obviously the sort of theme.
Yeah.
Tides are a central theme in the
That's
game.
like
They're
the morality.
A bit like your alignment. They're different colours of tides. There's several of them, and Numenera is the role playing. So like it,
I get why they did it,
but it's just
it's still
Torment Tides of Numenera. Yeah.
It's not brilliant. How do you spell Numenera?
With letters.
See,
yeah, we got it.
Yeah,
100%.
All right, I think we're going to now move on to some questions that have been sent in, and we're going to do that.
Ooh, I didn't know this bit was coming.
As I leave the room to go and get the piece of paper that I printed off and then forgot to bring
Should we
do
some lift music?
It's all right. I'll edit this out.
Oh, do you want to get this way?
All right then, so moving on to the questions that I did just get from the other room. Yes, you can send these in. Usually we send out like a tweet or a Facebook message on the day of recording, which is Monday, or if you've got something a bit longer, then you can email in at podcast@eurogamer.net, which is a real email address.
Can people
that
write letters as well?
They could, but I mean, it's a lot of work, isn't it?
Quill and ink letters.
Do you know someone sent us a letter with a broken shard of a Destiny disc once?
Why would they?
I do.
I'm not going to explain any further context. I'm just going to leave that there. All right, so
Stealth Destiny podcast.
Moving on.
Stealth Destiny letter.
Oh, that Eurogamer meme is getting old. Connor Mercer asks, what are your thoughts on no Assassin's Creed this year? So this is the news that, as Kotaku rightly guessed. Maybe not guessed. Maybe just knew. Yeah, the next Assassin's Creed game is likely to be set in Egypt and is skipping 2016.
I'm very glad about that.
I think they definitely
need a breather. They need a breather. With Call of Duty needs a breather as well. Assassin's Creed needs a breather. Just work on some of your engines. Stop reusing assets. Come up with a story with some characters that I won't forget after 2 minutes. And
I honestly think the big problem here is, and I kind of really got a sense of this when I went to visit Playtonic, which is the guys that left Rare to make Yooka-Laylee, and they basically said that Rare obviously went from being this love developer to people that make Kinect games, and they said part of the problem was because they got so big. You can't really take a break to have those conversations. Like you can't go, let's just mess around with this for a few days and see where we end up, because you've got hundreds sometimes of people, and Ubisoft are absolutely gigantic. You can't take a few days to tweak something and just see what you think and then maybe react to that, because you need to have hundreds of people assign tasks well in advance, because it's a ship that really turns very, very slowly, and I think taking a year off is exactly
and they have shareholders that they've got to keep happy. They need to keep the profit margins going up.
I think they got too big.
Maybe now they could
no one wants
for
to play
a pyramid year release.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
I've been
Wow.
thinking that. I've been holding on to that for the last 5 minutes.
Maybe it was better written down, I don't know. Ollie, also known as @NotCleverTom on Twitter, asks, what's the worst game that you like? Well, this is a difficult question to answer, because presumably if you like it, you don't think it's the worst game. Anything like a cookie clicker or something like that you play? And
I quite like bad games, to be honest. Well, you look like you've
You
got
got
some.
one?
I don't know how many people know this, but there's a game called Timberman.
Timberman?
I've never heard of
Which I've been
Timberman.
playing for about 2 years. It's a game I came across in Poland, because of course I did.
Mm-hmm.
And you chop, you're a lumberjack, and you chop either left or right on this screen, and as you chop, the tree comes down, and you have to avoid the branches each time you chop, and the time ticks away as you do this. You have to speed up, and that's been a persisting guilty pleasure. I don't even know if it's good or bad, but I can't stop playing it. It's like,
Fair play. Oh, I quite like Rogue Warrior. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Yeah,
Rogue
yeah,
Warrior.
yeah.
It's the Mickey Rourke voiced one.
Yeah, the one with
and
the
at the
outro
end he
music.
does the rap.
Oh my God, he does
It's
a rap.
so
Mickey Rourke
bad,
does a
but
rap.
it's like one of those like so bad it's good movies, like where you just watch and laugh at it. Like it's such a terrible game, but some of the dialogue and stuff is hilarious. So that's definitely up there.
Blade Storm, the 100-Year War. 100 Years War.
I came to that after playing Dynasty Warriors, which I'd probably put in this category actually, because in many ways the Warriors series, has been the same thing for an awful long time.
And then they changed it, and then.
And I adore it. It just does something to my brain that I find really satisfying, and I like killing lots of nameless warriors with a big sword on the end of a spear. It's great.
And yet they maybe have families.
Yeah, but they...
Actually, quickly on the subject of Rogue Warrior, I lent my copy of Rogue Warrior to Martin Robinson over a year ago, and he still hasn't played it and given it me back yet. So if you're listening to this, Martin...
Mate, he was supposed to be on this podcast. That if there's one word I'd use to describe Martin Robinson, it would be unreliable.
Unreliable, definitely. Do not lend your games to Martin Robinson.
Absolutely not. Complete this sentence, says Seb Long. Fallout 4 is to Fallout 3 as blank is to blank.
As Oblivion is to Morrowind.
Ooh, sick man! That's actually really very good.
I don't think I can beat that one.
Okay.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Actually, we haven't got a lot of... Out of the three of us, we don't write a lot of reviews here, but David Wood asks, do you read other people's reviews of games you've reviewed? And have you ever been of a totally different opinion? How do you cope? I mean, I've run into this myself before.
I don't think I have.
Like, I read other people's reviews, once you've put yours out there, you want to see, like, what PC Gamer thinks or whatever. And, I think it's just one of those things. Like, you have to trust your own opinion and, be confident of where you've ended up. Writing the XCOM 2 review for Eurogamer was a pretty big deal for me because it's probably the biggest game I've reviewed for Eurogamer, and the XCOM series is very close to my heart.
Then?
It's great, essentially. And
it looks boring.
I was, when that went live, I was a little bit nervous to see what other people thought. You never know if you're going to be close to the consensus, and so that can be a little bit nerve-wracking at times, but also it can also be incredibly refreshing because it's probably the only time you get to talk about a game without being influenced by anything else. Because once the reviews have gone live, you can't help but absorb some of that kind of general consensus as to what the feeling is towards this game. And then you go into playing it thinking about that thought. The great thing about writing a review before that happens is that you get this unique opportunity to it's just completely you.
Yeah, which is, I get...
Terrifying, but cool.
I do this with reviews on Eurogamer. I'm interested in that game. I'm not going to read a review.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tricky because then I'll go back and read the review afterwards. I feel like I can only go and read the review, and then it doesn't actually change that much about the game experience. But
sure.
It's like with going to see a film of a book or whatever. The reason I read Game of Thrones before I watched Game of Thrones was because I didn't want it to influence the other.
Well, human beings, that does happen. I mean, you can do things to kind of prevent that, but yeah, it's a cool position to be in. Oh God, I picked this one because I thought the wording was hilarious. What is your true, and I mean true, view on the epidemic which we call DLC and the season pass? Asked Chris Scott on Facebook using some very strong wording.
Epidemic.
I feel like his hands were flaming when he wrote that.
And
his keyboard's decimated.
This is your true view. It's not the view that you put on Eurogamer to appease
This podcast is
fickle
sponsored
audience.
by
This
EA. Should I say that?
His question's
It's
leading
not.
though, because he paints DLC and stuff in a negative
Well, he
light
does,
in his
you're
question.
I get where that comes from.
I reckon he likes Battlefront.
You reckon?
Yeah, but not the season pass.
Not the season pass.
No.
In so many cases, and particularly with big games, it can feel tiring that you feel like the season pass isn't there to add new worthwhile content. It's there to cost more money, and I totally get where that feeling comes from and that distrust comes from. But sometimes DLC can be more of what you like.
It's hard to look at horse armor and argue against it.
Well, exactly.
Oh, this is a great point. So, we're coming up to the anniversary. Is it how many years is it since?
God.
Oh, it
Oblivion?
must be 10.
Yeah, we're coming up to the
Yeah.
10-year anniversary on horse armor, which was a huge controversy in its time, right? Do you know how much horse armor cost? This is the horse armor in Oblivion. It was basically you could buy a kind of a new cosmetic for your horse.
£6 or something?
It was £1.70 apparently,
Oh, maybe
or
not.
something. So it was sub £2.
It doesn't sound that bad nowadays.
Like
Is that because we're used to
No,
this
it's
epidemic?
absolutely that. Like back nowadays, if that happened, you wouldn't blink twice. And yet back then, the idea of selling horse armor in an Elder Scrolls game was awful. That does say a lot about how we've kind of become used to this
In
culture.
theory, it's like subscription fees in MMOs. In theory, it's a good idea because it means that they can expand their games and that you buy new content, and there are good examples of it. The problem is that there's always bad examples of it from companies who look massive and have loads of money anyway, and you think, well, why do you need to? And that sullies the whole
No, there are
thing for everyone.
definitely times when DLC and stuff is taking the piss. Fallout
absolutely.
4,
More
like
often than not.
I put more than 100 hours into Fallout 4. I cannot wait for DLC to come out because it gives me more of that game. I can't wait for the DLC. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think the thing is as well for me a bit is when a game comes out and the DLC is a long way off at this point. Like case in point, Battlefront, and no DLC, proper DLC of the Season Pass DLC has come out yet. But when the game comes out, they'll say, now do you want to buy the Season Pass? Or just before, do you want to buy the Season Pass that costs the same amount as the game? Obviously, not everyone else has the same model. But it's like, why not? I get why they do it, because the excitement around the game is big, so they want more people to buy the Season Pass at that point. But what would sit better with me is if they waited and said, yeah, we'll have some DLC in the future. We're not going to bang on about it. But then when the DLC comes up and goes, this is the DLC, this costs, this is an example of it, and this is it. It costs £10 on its own, or as part of our season pass, we'll be doing another 3 drops like this. Do you want a season pass?
With the season pass, you're almost betting on whether that content will be good.
Yeah.
If you buy a game and then the season pass up front without seeing what you've got,
and actually,
you're taking a risk
the
with your
track
money.
record for DICE, Martin Robinson is a big Battlefield player, and as he says, the track record is DICE actually do support their game very well and give you good post-release content, but charging people £40 for a game and then going, can we have £40 more when there's nothing there? And some people might argue that the game's a bit thin anyway. It was. It's tricky. It's just unfortunate. It's the same thing with free to play. It's tarred with this brush now that.
Yeah, I mean the wording has become a little bit meaningless, I guess.
Look at the price, really. If something's full price, you're like, well, I want a full price game's worth of content. If something's £8, I want £8 worth.
I think the most egregious examples are the ones that in a perfect world, DLC is something that you're buying because you're funding something that wouldn't have existed otherwise.
Yeah.
And sometimes very obviously, publishers will take a segment from a game, and the Total War series, which is one of my favourites. People hate them for this. They've done it. They've done it with Total War Warhammer. They've taken a race out at launch, and it's going to be, if you pre-order the game, you get this race, but if not, you have to buy it as DLC as a separate thing.
They're like holding your game hostage.
Yeah, and the reason they do it is because they've done it for a long time now, but back with Total War, Total War Rome 2, they took off the Greek states, which are also like popular factions within that game. Not quite as bad an example as the Chaos
part of the game.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
And the problem there is that was the most successful pre-order campaign that Total War has ever seen, and they by a huge margin.
And the developers are sitting there going, I didn't like that, but then the numbers people are going, I like
the developers absolutely fucking hate it. I'm sure they do, because they're the ones that get all the grief, and yet in reality it's the publisher saying, well, look what just happened. We just did this for Total War
Rome 2.
Evidence. And look at these numbers. If you want to keep making your silly games about soldiers running around and, having amazing, epic, real-time battles that will blow your mind, then you're going to have to keep doing this. And we've unfortunately created this situation that they probably will need to get out of at some point.
Do you remember online passes? Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah,
they got phased out. That was old school, but they were like, everyone's like, oh, online passes, and people started rebelling it. Yeah, and then they kind of got phased out in the end.
Well, this is the thing. Money talks, and as much as people hate these big season passes, I assume it's the Battlefront one particularly that's in question here. It might not be. We don't buy it.
The thing is,
it doesn't work.
It happens though. I'm almost positive that Total War Warhammer has sold more pre-orders because of this deal that everyone hates. On their announcements video for this, and this is a wonderful little number they managed to reach. The announcement video for this DLC has 40,000 dislikes, or over 40,000, which for Warhammer 40k.
Wow, that's like one of your videos.
A number that they wanted to hit, and their community's obviously gone crazy. They hate this. They hate that they're doing it, and every video that they put up, every news post they do, their community's saying, stop doing this. And I'm still pretty sure that they probably sold more pre-orders than they would have otherwise. And I see why it happens. I don't like that it happens, and as someone that buys and plays video games, I wish it didn't happen. But unfortunately, as well as being this incredible creative art that we all get to enjoy, it's a business.
Yeah. On the other side of that, though, you get a company like CD Projekt Red, who rebel against. I mean, they have had some hiccups in the past, but they rebel against that kind of thing.
But they're independent, aren't they? They get to do that. They're big enough that they can. True. Whereas the Creative Assembly is, beholden to Sega in some respect, and money is often the worst part of this industry, unfortunately, and it's also the thing that keeps it going.
The
which is awful, isn't it? But yeah, on that incredibly
uplifting.
We're funding what we hate. Thank you so much for listening to this week's Eurogamer podcast. Yeah, we're still keeping it every 2 weeks for the time being. That might change. I keep saying that. And if you enjoyed it, do give us a subscribe on iTunes, leave a review. Any of that kind of stuff is always nice to see. And thank you to my two guests this week, which were Bertie Purchese.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
I'm a man from near Birmingham. It's Ian Higton.
Bye.
Thanks very much.